Hello CraftDee Family, and welcome to another tutorial by She's So Crafty. For today's DIY project, we'll be creating a beautiful pair of decorative shutters made from the long signs purchased from the Dollar Tree. Now these shutters feature a plank style with a Z pattern in the center, and they really are popular in farmhouse and other cozy home decor. Now I will also include the tutorial for the wreath as well, and as a bonus, an alternative way to make these with real wood. Now for your convenience, I provided the complete list of supplies and tools used to make this project in the description box below. Now I'm so very excited to share this tutorial with you, but before we start, I wanted to say hey, and welcome back to my amazing subscribers and visitors to my channel. If you are a new visitor to my channel today and you love to create fun and easy DIY projects on a budget, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also click that little notification bell so you will be the first to know when a new DIY tutorial is ready to share with you. So now, let's just jump right into these projects. Now for the shutters, we're going to need 5 of these signs. There's all kinds you can choose from. You just want to make sure they're all similar in size. Now for my project, I am going to use these beware signs. I'm showing 4, but you'll actually need 5 for this project. Now on these beware signs, it has this little picket bottom, but I wanted a straight bottom on mine, so I'll be cutting these off. Now if yours are straight, you can go ahead and skip this step. So all I'm going to do is to take my ruler and I'm going to draw a straight line along those pickets. And then what I'm going to do is grab my cutting mat and I'm going to use my utility knife to cut these. Now these are fairly easy to cut with a utility knife. So I'm just going to slowly drag my utility knife along that line 2 or 3 times, and that edge should just break off. And then I'm just going to repeat this for the remainder of my boards on both sides. And now all 5 boards should be ready, cut, and ready to go. So I'm going to grab one of those boards, and what I want to do is I want to draw a line down the center of the board. So I'm taking my ruler and I'm going to divide it equally in half. And then once those marks are made, go ahead and draw your cut line down the middle. Again, I'm going to take my utility knife and I kind of want to use another board to kind of butt it up to that line. And then I'm just going to drag my utility knife a couple times down that line. Now, once you get it cut pretty deep, you should be able to bend the board and it will snap apart nice and even. Now, we're going to end up repeating this process for 3 boards so we can get 6 of these narrow planks. And now we'll have 2 full boards. So now we're going to assemble our baseboards for our shutters, and we're going to need 1 full board and 1 half board. 1 full board just wasn't wide enough, so adding that half board gives us that width that we need. Now to connect these, I'm just going to use some leftover paint sticks, but you could also use some craft sticks as well. Now to apply these paint sticks, I'm just going to be applying some hot glue down the center of each one of those paint sticks. And then what I want to do is place it right down in the middle of that seam. Now once you press it down, press it firmly into place, make sure your boards are nice and even, and kind of squeeze them together so there are no gaps on the other side. And then you want to repeat this for your other stick, again pressing firmly into place. And now our board is nice and widened, and all we have to do now is repeat this for a second board. So now our 2 primary boards are complete. So now we're going to take another one of those half planks and we're going to be cutting those top and bottom sections. And so I'm just measuring the width of the board on that narrow plank, and we're going to need 2 of these per board. So you just want to mark it in 2 places. We can get 2 of these planks out of one of those long sticks. So again, I'm just going to take my utility knife and my ruler, and first I'm just going to cut off that end scrap piece and just run your blade a few times along that line and it should snap off. And then I'm just going to draw another line, go down that line a few times with your utility knife, and then you'll have your 2 pieces for your top and bottom planks that'll go on your shutters. Now you want to repeat this for another board because you want a total of 4 planks, so you have 2 planks for each one of your shutters. So now what we're going to do is paint our shutters, our 4 cross planks, and then the 2 remaining long planks as well. Now I'm going to be using some of these Dollar General disposable gloves that I picked up. I usually don't use gloves when I paint, but I have so many to paint today, and chalk paint can be a pain to get off your hands. So I'm going to use some of these gloves. They're only $1 and you get 100. So this was a pretty good deal. So I'm going to be using my home decor chalk paint, and I'm just going to apply a good bit on a plate and also grab a wide bristled brush. Now all you want to do with this is you want to apply your paint all over the board. You want to make sure you get the sides as well. And when you cover the board, make sure your strokes are actually going a long ways and they're nice and straight. Now repeat this for your second board and all of your accessory board pieces. And now everything is nice and painted, so let it completely dry. And there we go, all of our pieces are dry and we're ready to move on to the next step. So now we want to do is we want to take our baseboard, and I'm going to divide it into 3 different sections. Now you can use the guide from one of those planks that you adhered as that first cut if you like, or you could just go with raw measurements. Mine ended up being about 3 inches apart. Now once your marks are all made, go ahead and take your ruler and connect all of your lines to identify all 3 of your individual planks on your board. And now you want to repeat this for your second board. Now both of your boards are marked, and now we can move on to the next step. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some painter's tape, and I'm just going to put that painter's tape right along the line that we just marked on our top plank. And then I'm going to be using some of this Waverly Antique Wax to paint my boards. Now I also will be applying this with an old chip brush. This will help me get some definition in that wax. So I'm just going to dip it into that wax, and I just want to apply in a left and right stroke, just making sure my strokes are nice and even. You want to make sure you cover the complete plank. Now to get some texture, you can play around with the bristles, go back and forth. You also can twist that brush and make little knots if you want to. Just play around with the little technique, play around with the texture until you get a look that you like. Now I like to finish it up by going along that piece of tape and along the edges a little darker, because this will identify the crease in between the 2 planks. Now once your design is made, let it sit for about 5 minutes and then peel that tape off. And now take that same piece of tape and apply it along the next line on your board. Again, go ahead and apply that antique wax, play with the texture a little bit, have some fun with it, make some knots, and then you have your second plank board. Now for the third plank board, you want to repeat the same thing. Just go ahead and remove that tape and then apply your antique wax. And here is one of our baseboards all completed. Now once that is done, make sure you go around those edges so no white will be showing. And then repeat this whole process for your second board, taping it off first and making your planks. And now that we have both planks done, we can go ahead and sit these to the side and work on our other pieces. So all you want to do is apply that antique wax on the piece and kind of use that same technique. Go ahead and play around with the texture. You can make knots, you can vary the length of your strokes, and this is how it'll all turn out. You just want to kind of play with it, make it varied, make it look like natural wood. So now that I let everything dry, here are our 2 base pieces, our small pieces, and our long pieces. So now we can start putting together our shutter. So I'm going to take those 2 short pieces, and those will go at the top and bottom. You want to place them approximately 3/4 of an inch from the top and bottom edge. Now I'm going to be applying these with just hot glue, so place a generous amount of hot glue on the back, and you want to apply that top piece first, making sure it's nice and even. Now before you apply that bottom piece, you kind of want to mark where the placement is with a pencil. Now we're going to use this as a guide. So now we're going to take that piece that's going to cross across the middle, and we're just going to line the edge of it with the bottom of the top plank and the top of the bottom plank, and we're just going to mark where they come in contact so we can cut our lines. Now once we mark that crossboard, we just want to take our ruler, we want to connect those marks and draw a line. And then take the mat and your utility knife, and you want to carefully take your ruler, hold it along that line. You want to go ahead and score that line a few times, and then you want to cut it until you cut it off the piece. Now once that top piece is cut off, go ahead and test to make sure that it fits on the shutter just like you want it before you cut the bottom piece, just to make sure your measurements are okay. Mine looked okay, so I went ahead and scored the bottom and cut that off, and now that piece is ready to go. Now a good idea is to take this piece, place it face down on your other long piece, because we'll need two of these pieces, and you want to trace those same measurements on it. This way you don't have to measure a second time for your second shutter. Go ahead and cut that piece off, and you can set that one to the side for later. So now that we're going to take our cut piece, we are going to place it into place. Make sure everything fits well first before you glue it down. Now if everything looks good, go ahead and take your hot glue and apply a generous amount behind that cross piece. And once that cross piece is secure, go ahead and secure that bottom piece. And now our shutter is completely assembled. So now we're going to repeat this process for the second piece. And now both of the fronts of our shutters are complete, and you see the Z is automatically facing each other, exactly like they should look. So if you've been following me for a while, you know I love to finish off my projects. So I'm going to finish off the back of my shutter with this heavy duty craft paper, and I picked this up in a 140 foot roll from Lowe's. It's a little heavier than regular store craft paper, so that's why I like to use it on the back of my projects. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece to fit my sign, and I'm going to run a bead of hot glue around just the top section at first, the first couple of inches, because you want to do this in sections at a time to prevent any bubbling or rippling. So once you get that top section with hot glue applied, you want to press it firmly against that craft paper until it's secure. And then you just want to lift it up, and you want to apply another section of that hot glue along the sides and the center, and then press that into place. And you just want to repeat this process all the way to the bottom until that paper is nice and secure. Now that your panel is secured to the paper, we can trim off all of the excess. So I'm just grabbing my cutting mat and my X-Acto knife, and I can trim really close to the edge of our shutter piece and get all of that excess paper off. And now the back of our shutter looks nice and clean. I just love this look if you want to gift it as a gift or sell it. I just think it looks so professional. Now to hang the piece, I'm just going to take this scrap piece of nautical rope that I had on hand, and I'm going to lay it straight across the back. Now I don't want to adhere this to the paper because the paper might rip, so I'm going to adhere it to the board. Now in order to access the board, I'm just taking my X-Acto knife and I'm cutting a little bit of that paper off so that board part is exposed. Then I'm going to place a heaping amount of hot glue on that exposed board, and I'm going to lay that rope right in that little heaping amount of glue and waiting just a moment for it to secure. And then apply another heaping amount of glue right on top of that end, and then we're going to place a scrap piece of that craft paper right over the end of the rope. I just think this has a nice clean look. And then we're just going to repeat the process for our second board. Now I wanted to add wreaths to my board, so I created this one, and I'm going to show you how I did it. I used one of the 8-inch wreath forms from the Dollar Tree and a bundle of this eucalyptus that I got from Walmart for $2. So all I'm going to do is take that eucalyptus bundle and cut off all of those branches. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take each branch and I'm just going to take the stem of each one of those and wrap it around the wreath form. I may be using these in another project, so I didn't want to hot glue them. I just kind of wanted to secure them with the wire. And I'm going to repeat this all the way around the wreath form. You just want to make sure that the ends are overlapping and that the branches are kind of secure to the frame. Now, once all those branches are secure, you want to distribute them nice and evenly. Now, what I'm going to do to bundle them all together is to use some of this fishing line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my wreath form over and I want to tie that fishing line onto the frame. Then once that's tied on, I'm just going to kind of spread out my branches and bundle them together until it gets the way it looks. And then I'm just going to continually wrap that fishing line around and around the frame as I go around, laying down those branches and tucking them right into place, making sure those gaps are nice and filled. Now once you get all the way around and it looks good, go ahead and tie off that fishing line in the back of your wreath. And then turn it over, distribute your leaves evenly, make any adjustments that you need, and here you go. You have a nice cute 8-inch wreath, and we can use these for our shutters. Now, in order to secure them, I am just going to add some of this burlap ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to fold it over a few times and cut a few squares off. And then I'm going to take my hot glue and I'm going to place hot glue on each open end and just kind of seal them shut. Now once I do this for both, I'm going to apply hot glue to the back of one of those squares and I'm going to place it at the top center at the back of each one of my shutters. Now the reason for this is to provide a nice little area to pin my ribbon on so I can put a hanging wreath. So I cut another long piece of ribbon to hang my wreath on. So I'm going to grab my wreath and I'm going to wrap that ribbon right around it. And then you're going to measure to make sure your wreath is hanging where you want to and you have enough overlap. And you'll notice that the ribbon overlaps right on top of that square. So all you have to do is take a safety pin or a straight pin and pin it to that little piece of burlap. And now you have a hanging wreath that you can change out and it's not permanently attached. And oh my goodness, here are the two shutters on display with those beautiful green wreaths in place. I think this is an amazing transformation from Dollar Tree signs. Now, I really love working with the antique wax and the beautiful textures that it creates. Now, as you saw, it was so easy to make these little wreaths, and they were a total bargain at only $2.50 each. You gotta let me know what you think of these shutters in the comments below. And now I'm going to share with you how to make these shutters out of wood. So I went to the Home Depot and I purchased these 1x3x8s. This is what I like to use, and you only need one to make one shutter. And as you can see, these were only $1.68 each. So we're going to have to cut 3 pieces, and these will be at 20 inches. We're going to cut 2 pieces at 7.5 inches. And then we're going to cut 1 piece at 16 inches and have angles just like we did on the first shutter. So I'm going to lay down my grid mat so I can make sure everything is laid out nice and even. And I want to place my 3 base pieces all in order with the good side facing up. Now once they're nice and even and laid out, I'm going to lay on top of those my 7.5 inch pieces about 3/4 inch from the bottom, and then I'm going to take my angled piece and put it right in the center. You just want to make sure everything is even and lined up. Now once everything is in place, what I'm going to do is I want to start securing these pieces onto the boards with hot glue. Now this hot glue is only temporary and it's just to hold the pieces in place because I will be screwing these in later. We're going to stop with the top piece and then we want to do that center piece. And then finally, we're going to add on that bottom piece once everything is nice and even. Now once that glue dries, we can move on to securing our shutter. So I mentioned that we will be using screws, so I decided to use some number 6 1-inch screws to secure our boards together. So before I actually put the screws in, I like to mark where I will be drilling holes. So I'm going to drill 3 screws at the bottom, 3 screws at the top, and 3 screws across the center where the boards cross. So we'll have 3 screws in each board, and this will be nice and secure. And then I'm going back in with my Sharpie so I can mark each hole where I can identify them easy. So next I'm going to take my drill and I am going to drill down into the board, making sure it goes into the other board and all the holes that we marked, and I've marked my drill bit where it doesn't go through the other side. And now it's time to put our screws in our pilot holes, and I'm just going to screw each one of them into place. And here are all the screws in place, and our shutter is nice and secure. So now we can go ahead and stain it. Now I'm going to use Early American stain for this shutter. You guys know I love my Jacobian stain, but I'm going for something a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to take my rag and I'm going to start applying this nice golden brown stain all over the shutter. I want to do an application on the front and the sides of the shutter. And look at it, I think it looks beautiful. So now we just want to sit this out to completely dry. And now that it is dry, all we have to do is add our little jute string on the back, and I just applied that with a few staples, and then we can decorate it. Now we can add that wreath just like we added for the other one, and I put a thumbtack in this one and it fits nice and good. And check it out. I think that the wood in this looks absolutely amazing in this shutter design. Now you all know I love to work with wood, and I would definitely recommend that you give this version a try. And in this case, it was much less expensive to make this with real wood too. You guys have to let me know in the comments which version of these shutters that you plan to try. Listen, if you love DIYs on a budget, please give this video a thumbs up and share this video with your friends. Make sure that you're following She's So CraftDee on Instagram, Pinterest, and the latest news, sneak peeks, and giveaways. Thank you so much for visiting and checking out my tutorial today. You want to make sure you subscribe by clicking that subscribe button below, or just click on my She's So Crafty logo on your screen. It's absolutely free. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.